Scandinavia tops every list. The happiest country, the healthiest people, best educated, and they do it all while paying some of the highest taxes in the world. That is really interesting to me. So I'm going to take a look at a video here today called The Secret of the Scandinavian Economic Miracle by Explained with Dom. There will be a link down below so you can go and check that channel out. This is very interesting. I love the Scandinavian countries. Never been there, but I have loved what I've learned about them. So before we get going here, go ahead and like the video. That does help a lot. Let's see what we can see.
If you look at almost any list measuring human development around the world, you can be sure about one thing, that these 5 countries will be somewhere in the top 10.
Yeah.
Whether it's the state of democracy, human rights, lack of corruption, trust between citizens, social cohesion, gender equality...
Oh, whoa. Going a little fast there.
...will be somewhere in the top 10. Whether it's the state of democracy, human rights...
Denmark, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Germany. I knew Germany would be up there.
Lack of corruption, trust...
Lack of corruption. Denmark, Finland, New Zealand, Norway. Yeah, they're there. Sweden.
Between citizens. So...
Oh,
social cohesion.
International comparison, social cohesion. Wow. Look at that. That's amazing.
Gender equality, human development index, happiness index, it's always the same. Looking at those lists, Scandinavia just seems to be best at, well, everything. It looks like these few countries somehow found a recipe for success. A unique combination of economic policies and social values that became known as the Nordic model. But what is the Nordic model exactly? And why is it so successful? Is the reputation of the Scandinavian countries deserved? And if it is, then why don't we replicate their model everywhere?
That's a great question. I wonder how that happened. I mean, obviously he's going to explain, but I'm just want to kind of get ahead and see if I can think about it a second. So that's really interesting. I mean, obviously it's taken place over history. I wonder if it's because of any laws or anything like that. So it's going to be interesting to see here.
This is the secret of Scandinavian success.
Oh, here we go.
The Nordic model.
Okay. Well, it's not going to be a secret after this.
The answer to all of this is a little complicated, but the best way to start might be at a time when Scandinavia was not doing so well, and when it was going through one of its biggest crises, and facing a number of pretty severe economic and political challenges in the interwar period of the 1930s. Back then, the region was, like most of the world, badly affected by the Great Depression, the worst economic crisis of the 20th century, and the Nordic countries were hit pretty hard. The unemployment was extremely high, almost at 40% in Denmark. Businesses were bankrupting, and even independent farmers, who made up a backbone of the economy, were struggling just to get by. And just as in other parts of Europe, the economic hardship was fueling political radicalism and populism, as extremists on both sides of the spectrum were becoming more popular. Scandinavian communists were trying to overthrow the system through class warfare, creating rifts in the society and turning the lower classes against the elites, while fascists were...
Okay. I mean, that sounds like a playbook of a lot of countries. Well, I want to hear that part again.
The society and turning the lower classes against the elites, while fascists were attacking the nature of democracy itself, presenting it as ineffective and weak. To get through the crisis, the Nordic countries had to respond in a way that would address both the economic crisis and the political challenges. And the solutions that all of them chose defined what the Nordic model is, and what Scandinavia would have looked like in the following decades. First, the Nordic countries decided that the way to keep the society together in the times of the crisis is through a massive state spending and government-funded programs to help the people affected by the economic hardships. Previously existing measures like unemployment benefits and old age pensions were massively expanded, aiming to provide at least...
Wow, okay. All right, so because of the Nordic model started with the welfare state.
Measures.
Okay,
like unemployment benefits and old age pensions were massively expanded, aiming to provide at least some means for people who are out of job or too old to get one. And they were complemented by a number of other welfare measures aimed at improving the lives of the lower classes, subsidies for decent public housing, or benefits for families with children. This is
Oh man, that is really interesting. So they wanted to improve the lives of the lower classes, start from the bottom up, and then probably from the lower class, he developed people into higher classes, maybe, or you just took care of your people. So that says a lot.
when the modern welfare state was born and became a first key part of the Nordic model. In the following decades, the Nordic countries continued to expand on those core programs established in the 1930s, but the basic idea is still the same. To keep the society together and to keep different classes from clashing, you need to help the lower classes that need helping the most, and you need to integrate them into the society rather than to exclude them. And the idea is that even though this can cost a lot of money, it's still worth it because...
Man, that is great. I mean, it probably helps the lower classes feel some value because they are probably used to being excluded. And, it's like when you have money, you don't really, and you don't mingle with the lower classes. So this gave them value and helped them, move up to higher classes, which I think is great. And then they expanded on it.
If you don't help them, the poverty, homelessness, and unemployment will end up costing you even more. That's why the welfare state in Scandinavia casts a wide social safety net, making sure that even when you lose your job, you won't hit rock bottom. And the state is actively trying to help you to get back on your feet and back into the workforce as fast as you can. Because, as opposed to what many people might think, the point of the Scandinavian welfare state is not to keep people hooked on the state benefits forever, but rather the opposite. Scandinavian countries are surprisingly strict and generous at the same time. People who are left without a job are given generous unemployment benefits, but only as long as they are actively seeking work. And
that's interesting. I wonder how they police that. I don't know if police is the right word, but how they regulate it. It's probably a better word. But I wonder how they regulate that. Maybe you have to check in every so often. And I'm assuming this welfare state still exists today. So maybe somebody out there can answer that. Like, how do they regulate that?
Following the same...
Because I just want to say that I know in the U.S. and maybe in other countries. Yeah, I'm pretty sure other countries. I think I heard something similar to this in Germany where they have people take advantage of the system. I guess that's in any country. But so I wonder how it gets regulated over in the Nordic countries.
But only as long as they are actively seeking work. And following the same pragmatic logic, the Scandinavian welfare state puts a lot of effort into trying to elevate the poor to become the middle class. The idea is the same. A strong middle class and economically equal society is good for social cohesion, while having a lot of very poor people is both expensive and creates a divided society. That's why the Nordic education, healthcare, and social services are free or almost free for everyone, and focus, at least in theory, on making sure that everyone has a more or less equal opportunity to build a solid career and have a decent quality of life.
Wow. That's interesting. So, so they want to build the middle class because it sounds like the middle class is what drives everything. So they try and get the lower class up to the middle class, and they believe that it happens by giving them good health care, good education. Man, that's really interesting. I did a video about a lady from Sweden that said that they don't do, she doesn't like homework. They don't do homework as much. I think in Sweden, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I think that's what she was saying. I'm gonna go back a little bit.
Equal opportunity to build a solid career and have a decent quality of life. The downside of this is that the welfare state doesn't come free, and the Nordic countries have famously high taxes. In Denmark, the average person pays 45% of their income on taxes, compared to 22% in the United States and 24% in the UK. But
Well, I mean, I don't know about that. 22%? Not if you're self-employed. I feel like my taxes are like 40%. I mean, the tax is still very complicated because I'm paying it in two countries. But they have some kind of treaty or something that doesn't allow me to pay, double tax, which is great. They kind of split the difference. But still, it's like 40%. But this is, let me see. 22% US average combined, UK average combined 24%? Really? Why did I think the UK was so expensive or had more taxes? Oh, wow.
taxes in Scandinavia are not just a way to provide the state with enough money to pay for everything, but they also serve as a tool for redistributing wealth and helping to keep the income inequality low. Basically, it's harder to become really wealthy, and it's also harder to become extremely poor. But it's relatively easy to stay somewhere in the middle. When this concept was first formed in the 1930s, in Sweden it was called folkhemmet, people's home, implying that the state is not just a detached bureaucratic body, but rather a home or a family for its people. In this concept, all citizens are part of this family, and as such, everyone needs to be treated fairly and equally. And even more importantly, the common good of everyone, of the family as a whole, is what really matters. And it is more important than the good of the individual. This is somewhere in the middle between the super individualistic model in the United States, where the state is there only to provide the basic minimum and everyone should rely on themselves, and the
And before he goes on to that, and you have people that are actively trying to take away even the minimum from a lot of people in the United States. But he's right, it definitely is individualism there. Oh man, it's so interesting. And the totalitarianism sounds like he's about to say.
totalitarian communist model in the Soviet Union, where the rights of the individual were basically non-existent. That's why the Scandinavian model became famous during the Cold War in the English-speaking world as the middle way. Second part of the Nordic model, which was also born in the 1930s, is what became known as the Great Compromise. In Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, unions of employees and unions of employers agreed that in order to prevent a conflict between different classes, they must find a compromise that would make everyone happy. And so through different agreements, employers in all the Nordic countries agreed to guarantee decent wages, safe working conditions, and a maximum of 10 working hours per day for everyone, while the employees agreed not to protest and strike, as long as their employer—
Wait, hold on. I want to hear that again. Decent wages, safe working conditions, and limited work hours.
The employees agreed not to maximum of 10 working hours per day for
Maximum of 10 working hours per day. Okay.
everyone, while the employees agreed not to protest and strike, as long as their employers kept their word. This unique model of cooperation between workers and business owners remains until today, and many of the working conditions are negotiated directly without the intervention of the state. That's why, for example, Nordic countries don't actually have a national minimum wages that would be mandated by the government. At the same time, a different compromise was reached in politics.
So then is that just considered like a union? Like the citizens are a part of a union? I mean, maybe not exactly those words, but it seems similar where you get some guarantees when you're part of a union, and the union, in this case, the citizens kind of negotiate with the businesses and vice versa.
Most Nordic countries, social democratic parties have dominated politics since the 1930s, but they formed a consensus with other parties, like liberals, conservatives, and farmers, not just to push through the necessary reforms, but also to show that democracy still works and that compromise in politics is possible. But there is one more aspect that makes the Nordic model possible in the first place, and which also explains why it doesn't work anywhere else. This often overlooked aspect are the unique cultural values and social characteristics which can be summarized as social trust. They have been dubbed the real Nordic gold, and they are what really makes Scandinavia stand out.
That's true. You can't have the other two without trust. So, and that's probably where a lot of people fail. I know that's where it would definitely fail in the United States, because there's like zero trust there. Well, I mean, there's probably some people who trust, so maybe it's not zero, but it's pretty much zero trust that the government will actually hold their end of the bargain. So that's interesting.
The thing is that if you took any given country and tried to introduce the Nordic model, redistribute the wealth through really high taxes to pay for free state-provided services for everyone, chances are that it wouldn't really work. People wouldn't want to give up the benefits of their hard work through high taxes, and they wouldn't trust that the state is competent enough to redistribute them. But Scandinavians are willing to take part and willing to share, not just because they have to, but because they trust that it's the best thing to do.
I love to pay my taxes.
Yeah, I like paying taxes.
Scandinavians just trust both each other and...
That is... Oh, man. Actually, I don't mind paying taxes. Now that I think about it. It's something about the taxes I pay in Spain, like I feel better about, because I do get universal health care and it's helping people. You know, I have private insurance, but, you know, I'm able to help other people through that. So, you know, I don't complain. I mean, it's a lot of money, so don't get me wrong. I'm not made of money. So that part is a little, you know, of course I'd like to pay less, but here I don't mind it. But in the US, it's like I just feel that my taxes are not going to the thing that I would like them to go to, really.
Their governments a lot more than anyone else. And that's the reason why they are willing to give up their wealth and support the welfare state. And the crazy thing is that although the welfare state was born in the 1930s, this high level of trust has been in Scandinavia way before that. According to Andreas Berg, who researches this topic in Sweden, Swedes have had higher levels of trust in each other and their state way back in the 19th century, and possibly even before that. Which means that the high level of trust is not an outcome of the welfare politics, the culture of compromise, or the fair legal system. It's what made it possible in the first place. And that's why without this trust, the Nordic model just won't work somewhere else. But as for why Scandinavians trust people so much, that's a more difficult question to answer. Some historians point to the influence of Lutheranism, a Protestant branch of Christianity which was historically the state religion in Scandinavia, and which has equality and egalitarian society as one of its core values. Others argue that it's the climate, and point to a theory that people from colder climates generally have higher levels of social trust, because they...
Really? He was about to say, because of something. I don't know if I've ever heard that. Wow, so, that is interesting. I wonder if that means that people like in warmer climates like don't trust people. I would assume so. To think just the opposite of that. I'm gonna hear what you have to say.
People from colder climates generally have higher levels of social trust, because they had to historically rely on each other and their close neighbors for survival. Another factor might be that the Nordic countries have experienced a lot more internal and external stability. The last time Sweden was at war was in 1814, and the last time a leading political figure was killed in Denmark was in 1286. And while the history of the Nordic countries is obviously not entirely peaceful, compared to the rest of the world, it's marked by much less violence and internal conflicts. And finally, there is the geography. Historically, the Scandinavian states have had large territories with long distances between settlements, which made it difficult for the Nordic kings and nobles to exercise strict control over their population. And this meant that the ruling class had to actually try to provide services for their citizens if they wanted to control their land, rather than just collect taxes. In other words, even back then, there was an expectation that those who rule the country should be actually doing something useful for their people. And this limited control also enabled the rise of a class of independent farmers, which became the foundation of the future strong middle class, the backbone of the Scandinavian societies until today, and a big factor.
Wow, so farming's big there. Oh man, I might need to look that up. I'm gonna write that down. I want to do some video on that. Does anybody out there have a video on farming in the Nordic country? I'll definitely look that up. Go back a little bit.
The backbone of the Scandinavian societies until today, and a big factor leading to a higher social trust between people. It's difficult to pinpoint one specific reason, and most likely it was a combination of all of them. But the bottom line is that the reasons which made the Nordic model possible date way back into history. And that means that the birth of the Nordic model is less about policy decisions and more about the unique combination of factors that have shaped the Scandinavian societies.
That is beautiful right there. Man, that just looks so awesome. I think I would like that.
For hundreds of years. And that's why it's almost impossible to recreate the Nordic model somewhere else. Because while you can replicate some of the policies, without the underlying factors, it's not going to work. Or at least not as well. Obviously, the Scandinavian countries are not perfect. They definitely have their flaws, and they are dealing with their own challenges as well. But the fact—
Wait. Hold on, I gotta see those. Is Sweden complicit in war crimes in Yemen and Norway's climate hypocrisy? Clean at home, dirty in the Arctic. Oh, wow.
They definitely have their flaws, and they are dealing with their own challenges as well.
Different Sweden. Gang shootings loom large in vote. I think I did see something on that they have some type of gang violence or something like that over in Sweden. Swedish Prime Minister says integration of immigrants has failed, fueled to gang crime. Oh boy.
Well, but the fact is that their model has worked, and while we don't know whether their model will survive in the future or not, it has been one of the biggest success stories of the 20th century. If you look at
I feel like it would take a lot for it not to work because they've had such a long ingrained history and the cultural development and everything like that. So, and one of the things I will say on some of the things that he brought up that, you know, are problems like the gangs and things like that, those problems exist in other countries and they don't have some of the things that Norway has that makes that, not Norway, I'm sorry. Well, Norway, but all of the Scandinavian countries that makes those countries great. So they don't have everything. So that makes the, you know, the violence and everything puts it into perspective a little bit. Man, that was a really great video. I had no idea. That's why I love doing these videos, because I just get to learn so much about a lot of places here in my new home in Europe. That's right. So that was a great video. I definitely like that one. If you have any that you want me to check out, there is a link in the description where you can go and add a video to a little list that we have going on, and I'll do my best to get to those. Before we get out of here, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. This is G. Lou. My name is Greg, and we will catch you on the next video. Peace.